Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den, and I'm so excited to be here and talk to you guys about this topic of perfectionism. Now, if anybody knows anything about perfectionism, it is me, because I am a Virgo, so I will totally take the cake on this entirely. And this is something that I think that I struggle with very early on in my life, and it was really because I just felt as though everything just kind of had to be perfect. Honestly, I felt like people had to be perfect. The relationships had to be perfect. And I think just imperfection in itself, it just scared me. There were so many imperfections within myself that I refused to see. You know, there were so many things that I knew wasn't right with me, but I just would fake it. And in many ways, I had morphed myself into just being a very unhappy person, you know, because I was never satisfied with anything. And I still struggle with it a little bit, especially in regards to my work. I'm really passionate about what I do. I love being an artist. I'm passionate about my art. And so I'm always like, you know, and I've learned, though, to be a little bit more free flowing with it. And I think that has definitely granted me liberty to create in the space to just kind of be. But it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And I think that a big part of just the reason why people struggle with perfectionism is because of what other people think, you know. What other people have to say, what other people may believe or feel, you know, about you and just everything that you have going on in your life. And we see it all the time, right? Like people with their families, they even brush it off on their kids, and they're in these spaces where they're like, the kid needs to be perfect, right? The kid has to go to a certain school. We kind of see that in like movies, but I know that people are really living like that. And it's like, it's crazy, you know, but I definitely think it just goes back to being in a space of feeling so unworthy, you know, and just being in a space where people are telling you that you're not enough, especially the people that you care about, the people that you love. You know, for me, it was just one of those things where it was like, I would say that. So I was like a B student. I really was like a B student. I think I've always been like a B student, except for English. That was the only class I would ever get an A. So let me tell you how I would do my grades. And I hope like no kids are listening to this, because don't do what I did, right? Do your schoolwork. But what I would do is I would always average about like a C in science, because I was like, I don't know why, but it's like I was interested in science, but I wasn't the best at it. And I think I didn't really try. And then in math, I was really bad at math. And I think I was bad at math because I told myself I was bad at math, but it was one of those things too that just did not click with me. So I get like a D in math, you know what I mean? And then the rest of my classes, like electives and English, it was like A+. And so I would always average out like a 3.0. And so I was always like a straight B student. And for me, that was good, because I felt like, okay, you know, this is just what I do, right? Like this is for me at the time, and just what I knew and how I felt about myself. That was my best, you know, and that in itself was like never accepted. And it was mostly about like my dad and stuff. And so I say that to say, it's like when you're in that space, you know, and you're giving your best, and it's like it's still not enough. I think that is the reason why for me it had kind of carried on into my later life, and why I was like so big on perfectionism and just like refusing to see my flaws, and dismissing the flaws in others, or even bringing them out and just dismissing people because of their flaws. And it's horrible. It really is. It was a really horrible thing. But I can say, you know, that taught me a lot. And I think one of the things that I've noticed about people, and we do this sometime, and this, I'm going to talk about this in the next episode, but it's this thing with like, when it comes to us being accountable and being held accountable, we always want to push it off as somebody's being judgmental. You know, we hold people accountable. It's, oh my God, you're being judgmental. No, I'm holding you accountable. You know what I mean? And I think that's just the thing that we live in. Like, this society is so sensitive, and I can't stand it. You know, I can't stand it. It's like, how are we supposed to grow if you can't tell a person the truth? I think everybody wants to be coddled. Everybody wants to be babied. One of the things I really can't stand, though, is like, if you're complaining about a situation and I see the solution, right? Because I'm a visionary, you know, I'm not all the time. I'm not like God. I'm not, you know what I mean? But if I see the solution to your problem and I'm sharing that with you, and you're continuously doing the same thing, or, you know, you're still complaining about it, that's just so, I mean, is that not detrimental, like, to the whole journey? Like, you know, and I think that we just live in this society now where it's like, people don't want to be held accountable. People want to sit and complain and be babied and be pacified, right? Everybody's so sensitive. We much rather be coddled than told the truth. And I'm not saying you got to be crass or curt in regards to like your delivery, in regards to what you have to say to a person's situation, right? Because we can never really truly put ourselves in another person's shoes. But I think that we definitely have the ability to empathize if we're willing. failing. And I just feel like, overall, man, it's like people just do not want to be held accountable for their actions. And so people much rather complain. But if you're in my space, excuses are that's like the biggest inconvenience. You know what I mean? What is the solution? So anyways, going back to what I was saying in regards to like perfectionism. So you hear people saying things like, oh, I'm not perfect. Oh, I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? But it's really just like some BS for them just to not grow and to be a better person. You know what I mean? And so I think in order to just kind of find that balance, or not even just a balance, but like realizing when you're being a perfectionist, like I had to realize it for me. It was one of those things where I was realizing it within myself. And I think that was a beautiful thing about being in seasons of when I was just alone, and I tell people that all the time, like it's so important to take seasons and just take time for yourself to be alone, to grow and be an individual, and get a better understanding of who you are as a person, get clarity on your life, your vision, and everything that you want to do. You know what I mean? Because relationships and people, they come into your life, but people can really be a distraction if you do not know what it is that you want. And most importantly, I tell you guys all the time, if you do not know what it is that you want, you do not know who can fit into your life, into your vision. You don't know where you're going. How can somebody come into your life and you have no clue what, So that's how people come into your life, and they piss in your life, and they just bring all this stuff into your life, and you look up and you're like, who am I? And it's been like 10 years. You know what I mean? And so I never wanted to be that person, and I think I had seen it with so many people, and I noticed the influence in just many people. I talked to you guys about the popular kids and where I've seen that those kids kind of wound up. And I say this on the humble, because I don't think that I'm any better than anybody, and this is something I want to make very, very clear. I don't think that I'm better than anybody. And this isn't a matter of, I need to just put on this front like I'm just this humble, modest person. You know what I mean? I love nice things, and I'm confident in myself and the way I speak and what I stand for. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I understand that I'm no different than anybody. And the only difference between me and you is my decision making. That is the only difference. You know what I mean? We got the same mind, same 24 hours. We got the same struggles. We all going through our own Sonder. You know what I mean? As Ryan, I think it's Ryan Keefe who said that, or Ryan Koenig is who? Yeah, but we all got our own stories. In other words, you know what I mean? We all are dealing with our own stuff. So don't ever look at a person and you feel like they're perfect. Like I think for me, another reason why I struggled with perfectionism was because I had got that so much from other people. And even still to this day, people think that like my life is some way that I don't understand. Like I've always been a pretty conservative person, though, I have to admit. I've always been very conservative about my life. But, don't ever look at a person and think that, oh, she got it together. No. When I was very young, like I said, I talked to you guys about, I just mentioned that my dad and, how I was like a B student that was like never enough, which is nothing wrong with that, because I really could have done better. But, honestly, it really was my best. Like I think what I really struggled with was like I was always daydreaming in school. You know what I mean? I was always in that space, always just in a creative state of mind. Like I think I really needed to go to an art school like very early on, but yeah, so like, when we have issues in our family, we'll go through these, we want to talk about it. And then my grandmother would always teach me, only the strong survived in the world. And that's true. And all of these things, I'm not saying that to say a pity party. And I tell people this all the time, like, even in seasons, you guys, I never asked for pity. Like I'm opening up about my story and my stuff and things that I've been through in my life. I've never asked for pity. When I share certain things with people, people look at me with this face, and it's like, I never asked for that. I'm not even saying like I never asked for that. Like, oh, I need to be so strong. Like it's not even that. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm human. You know what I mean? And then those things, they made me the person that I am today. And so, when it comes to pity, it's just like, save it, because I don't need it. You know what I mean? I'm good. But yeah, you guys, like anything that you go through in life, God will turn it around for good. But anyways, so yeah, I grew up with that mentality, and it was one of those things where it's like, don't ever look like what you've been through. And honestly, it really was a blessing. But you see how that perfectionism, you know what I mean, kind of played in, because there would be some things that I was going through in my life. It was like really tough, and I wasn't crying. Like I didn't cry a lot as a kid. I don't feel like I cried as much as I probably should have. Like I wasn't crying. I wasn't in that space, and I don't think I ever really stepped into that space until I got older and I was unpacking a lot of that stuff. But yeah, like that whole thing of like having it together, that was just like what it was, and I don't, like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing, but now, like I said, the perfectionism of it, so when people were coming to me and I'm seeing like people's stuff, right? And I'm like, this is all over the place because my stuff was packed away. You know what I mean? My stuff was put tight in a little suitcase in the back of my mind, the bottom of my heart. It was packed neatly. All of my stuff was in there folded. Nothing was hanging off the zippers. Okay, the zippers were gliding and sliding in my luggage. It was fabulous. You know what I mean? So when people would come to me with this stuff, and I'm like, dang, like I think it was more so like I couldn't receive that. Like I didn't even know how to really navigate with that, because I'm like, dang, like you're just, you're this one way, but it's like, no, we're really the same. I just had tucked mine away and I had just made it look pretty. You know what I mean? And so I think that was when I talked about like not being seen. And this is the biggest thing about perfectionism, you guys. Like when you step into that space, it's like you really close yourself off. You're not opening yourself up and allowing yourself to be seen. And that's not to say open yourself up to every single person. Okay, I'm noticing in this episode, you guys, I am giving you guys a little bit more detail, because I told you I don't really like to go into the ins and out of everything that I'm saying, but I'm realizing as I'm speaking, I'm doing that. So I hope that this is helping somebody. Maybe that was the reason why, my spirit has me in this space. But anyways, so that was like the biggest thing. And then I've also found, like when I was meeting other people, I was attracting other people who were like that, it was horrible. It was almost like a mirror. And I was like, dang, like I feel like I just feel like I'm being so judged, and I was definitely being judged. But I was like, dang. And I was thinking like, wow, is this what I do to other people? And that eventually made me want to change. And then another thing too, I was dating, not like dating, but I had met someone, and it was almost like when I was opening up about my stuff, this person was almost like ill, right? Because it was like I had always tucked it away. And so, in other words, I just say like you have to show up. You have to show up. And perfectionism it doesn't exist, man. You guys, it's so exhausting. I can't tell you how exhausting it is. I think now that's why I'm in a space in my life where it's like just acceptance, and I'm still growing, still changing, but there's a lot of things that have come forth because I've packed all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, what is it that I cannot accept? And what is it that I cannot, I'm not willing to change, or what is it that I need to accept? That's what I'm going to say. What is it that I cannot accept, and what is it that I need to accept about myself? Because this game of perfectionism is a losing game, and you're never seen. You're always hiding, and you're never showing up. And it really sucks, because I think about the people who I could have showed up for, not really within the space of regret, because I don't think that I even had the knowledge or the capacity to even share those spaces with them. So I just think it's just so important to just show up and be who you are. And like when it comes to like perfectionism, it doesn't exist. Like you're never gonna get it. You know what I mean? You're never gonna get it. And so I'm learning that it's a continuous struggle. Thank God it's no longer in a space of like my personality and just who I am as an individual, but it's more so like my art and my work and the things that I'm really passionate about. So I'm like, okay, I have to, it's a work in progress, because I really feel like that's my nature, and I want to be the best. You know what I mean? I want to be the best in anything that I do. I want to dominate the fields that I step in, and I know that I can. So, that's kind of like my own personal truth there. But yeah, you guys, perfectionism, it doesn't exist. But yeah, so on the flip side of that, you have people who are like, oh, I'm not perfect. I feel like that's just nothing more than an excuse. Don't get me wrong, you guys. I think that being real, being honest about your stuff, like, well, first of all, let me just say this, because this is something that I heard TD Jakes say one time. And I'm like, man, it was just right on the nose, you guys. He said, this generation thinks that being real is just telling everybody all your business. And I was like, whoa, that was like totally mind blowing. That took me back like 110 yards, you guys, because I was like, I'm so exaggerating, but I was like, how crazy is that? Like, I feel like that really is a generation that we live in, and people don't understand. Like, when you come to somebody's life, it's not a matter of you, feeling like you're owning your stuff, and it's not a matter of you feeling like, courageous enough to share those spaces. But the thing is, you guys, that's intimate. You know what I mean? We've been taught that intimacy is just intercourse, but that's intimate. Like those conversations, that stuff is intimate. So to kind of just walk into somebody's life or even get online and just put all your stuff out there, that's not, they didn't earn that. You know what I mean? They didn't earn that. And that's just one of those things. So it's like, you have to be very mindful with the matters of your heart, and be very mindful of what it is that you've been through. Now, me, I've accepted many things about myself. So I've never shared anything that I haven't accepted about myself. And I never will, because I understand that, that what's happened to you and the things that are close to your heart, people can use that against you. And I'm not saying be on lock. Listen to me clearly. I'm not saying be on lock, but guys, you have to understand, like, when it comes to the matters of your heart, the Bible talks about guarding your heart. You have to be mindful of those things. So, this is why you have people who are in relationships. I feel like this is more so young women, but, you have women who are in relationships and you meet people and they're throwing things in your face. You know what I mean? And you shouldn't feel bad about that. That just says a lot about that person. And if it happens to men, it's the same thing, same thing for men. But you shouldn't feel bad about that. But at the same time, this is why you have to be mindful. That is intimate. That's right. That's real intimacy right there. And so just be mindful what you share. And like I said, if you've accepted things about yourself and you're doing it with the right intention to help other people, I think that you should go for it because, when you show up, I always tell myself, man, if I don't show up, I know there's a young girl who will never show up. And, she may be I don't know, the next Michelle Obama or something. So I'm I have to show up in those ways. But just, staying strong and just be mindful of those things. But yeah, nobody's perfect. And what else I was going to say? I'm trying to think. I hope you guys can hear my lo-fi beats in the background. It's a very chill day. I tried to vlog. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is the new stuff I'm working on. It's taking me out of my comfort zone. I have to say, I totally love being back here behind the mic, my phone, because Anchor's great. And, this is just my own little space. But anyways, all right, I can't, it's seeming not to come back to me. But yeah, so, show up and be true to yourself, most importantly. I wanted to go to 20 minutes, but I think we're going to go ahead and end this. And I'm going to leave you guys with your thoughts. And I hope everybody has a great day.